Good morning and welcome to day 3 of our October 2019 Profit Challenge. So take 2 with the right banner at the bottom this time because I forgot to switch it over. Never mind. So
We're not OCD, really.
no, typical accountant OCD. That's terrible, isn't it? Right, okay. So today we're looking at pipeline profit leaks, pipeline and sales profit leaks. So where in your pipeline or your sales process could you be losing profit and losing money? What I want you to do, this is a task and a challenge for everybody who's watching to do. Get a plain piece of paper and then write down across the top or across the side, depending on which way you like to do your process flows, and write down each of the individual ways that cash or profit or sales comes into your business. So we're looking for the sales process, whether it be a shipped order or a sales order or a phone order, or comes from a spreadsheet, or it comes from Infusionsoft, or maybe it comes from an invoice that's raised. List every way that a sale is made through your system, and let's look at each one of these in order. So take a shipped item. If you've got items that are shipped out of your business or out of your warehouse, how are you tracking them? How are you recording every item shipped and making sure that the right items are being shipped and they're being billed to the customer at the right cost, at the right place, to the right customer, and that you've got the right quantity? Where might things be missing in that process? Might things be missed off? Might stuff be shipped out but it's not actually recorded anywhere? Have a think about where your sales process could go wrong in items that are being shipped and how you might capture those.
What if you use sales orders? Are these actually all converting to sales? Now, oddly, there'll be a lot of businesses out there that go, well, I'm going to capture 100% of these. Of course, I'm missing none of them.
Yeah.
But the reality is, from the experiences we've witnessed, actually, you may be missing the odd one here and there. So it's one of these processes which actually often gets overlooked. But just review, make sure all of your sales orders are actually converting into sales when they're actualized, when they're agreed, because sometimes some of these can slip through the net.
Yeah. Now, what about if you track your sales on a spreadsheet? Where are they converting to a sale? Could they be left on your spreadsheet but not actually converted to a sale? Could you have delivered the service or the goods but not actually invoiced your customer? So how does it go from spreadsheet to invoice to cash being paid? Follow that process through and see if there are any checks or any balances that you need to reconcile on your spreadsheet against your accounting system. Where could that process go wrong and where could you be missing a sale?
And how about email inquiries? Now, you may have multiple email contacts within your business because you may have different sales consultants. They may all manage a different pipeline. So the reality of the situation is many emails, more chance of losing out on one of these. So how are your email inquiries coming in? Are they fully converting? And are the ones which are converting, are they actually being transferred over to a sales invoice in a timely manner? Because the chances are there might be the odd one here and there that gets missed and it gets raised as a late invoice. And then, of course, it delays your payment. It actually understates your sales at the time. So just need to review your process for your emails and make sure that all of your items in your inbox which relate to inquiries are actually being fulfilled and they're being tracked somewhere.
Yeah, so what we have seen in the past is with customers that the email comes in and perhaps it comes into an employee's individual inbox and it gets left there, it gets forgotten about, employee goes on holiday, things like that, and it doesn't get tracked onto an order fulfilling system. Or perhaps it comes into an email and it gets filed accidentally. Those kind of things do happen. So what process do you have in place to stop that? What about phone inquiries? What process do you have to write down, to track, to record inquiries or orders placed by phone? Does it go into a system straight away? Does it get written onto a bit of paper, onto a post-it note? Could it get forgotten? Could it get mislaid? Could you miss that order? Perhaps the first time you find out that you haven't fulfilled that order is when the customer calls you and complains that they haven't received it. So have a think about that process and where in your phone sales process things could go wrong and you might have a profit leak.
Now, the reality is you might have a CRM system in place where actually your emails, your phone calls, they get recorded in your CRM system. So you may be using something such as Infusionsoft or something down those lines. But the reality is we've got to make sure that we're maintaining this system. And most importantly, if we manage items such as subscriptions in our CRM, we need to make sure that we're capturing all of the cancelled subscriptions,
definitely.
all of the expired subscriptions, and actually a cancellation is usually easier to detect than an expired credit card, for an example, just because one is usually more black and white. You get some sort of confirmation that they've cancelled somewhere down the line. The other one just drops off.
Well, the cancellation is a deliberate customer action, isn't it, to terminate services. So you usually get some kind of notification that happens, and then you can transfer that over into your customer retention process to see if you can get them to rebuy, and you can convert that back to a sale again. Now, if the card that's being used, that's been recorded to process that sale, is managing an ongoing subscription and the card expires, now that's a slightly different thing. That's a soft close. And what happens there is that the card expires. If you don't have a process to sweep those up and capture those, then that happens in the background. The customer still has access to your systems, your software, your memberships, or whatever it is that they're buying for, but you're not getting the income. Now, that's a lot harder to track because you're not raising an invoice necessarily for that service. It's all being done in a separate system outside of your accounting system in your CRM. Now, we've seen that happen in 2 or 3 occasions in the past where clients don't have that process in place to capture that renewal. So have a look and see if that is a potential thing that's happening in your business, and find that profit leak and plug it fast. Now, what happens if you have a Go Cardless or a Stripe system in place? Now, typically, the way we use Go Cardless and Stripe is that Go Cardless and Stripe are linking to an invoice in Xero or QuickBooks, and that creates an invoice that can be paid by direct debit or by card payment. Now, what you can do is create subscriptions from Go Cardless and from Stripe themselves. So in the same way that subscriptions are being handled by Infusionsoft, these subscriptions can happen outside of your accounting system. So rely on you having controls and processes in place to pick up cancellations and renewal failures, to make sure that you've got a process in place to actually renew that contract and renew that subscription. So have a look and see how that works in your business, and to see whether you've got any potential profit leaks there.
And speaking of operating outside of your accounting system, perhaps you have another system which you're using for tracking invoices. It might be some sort of external software. Now, the reality of the situation is you might be raising invoices in this and importing them into your accounting software. So how do you check it actually tallies up and that you've got every single invoice from one system into the other one? Because that's the important part when it comes down to credit control, because you'll want all of your invoices recorded in your accounting system for many, many reasons, but also if you're managing credit control from there, you need to have it to be up to date so you can actually manage this process. So do you have cross checks in place? Do you have a way of maintaining that actually this data matches that data?
That's a really good point, because what happens if there are credit notes raised or adjustments? They might be in the accounting system or they might be in the source system. So even after you've checked that your sales match at the end of the month, what happens if there are retrospective adjustments? And it does happen, and we've seen systems fall out of sync, haven't we? Where adjustments are made to these sales and they're not being properly tracked in one or the other of those systems. So then things get out of sync and it gets really complicated to try and work out where your missing sale is or isn't. So check how that works and see whether you've got a profit leak in that area. Now, the final one that I want to talk about today is repeating invoices in Xero. Now, Xero can be set to raise repeating invoices. So say you've got contracts to renew every month, every 3 months or 6 months or 12 months. You've got the renewal coming up in Xero, but Xero doesn't tell you that there's a renewed invoice coming up if it's come into draft. So say you might need to review the price or review the contract with the customer. What process do you have in place to be looking for those draft invoices that are sitting there in Xero? Now, again, we've seen draft invoices sitting in Xero for months and months and months after, we've perhaps gone in and done a system audit for somebody and found old draft invoices in there, and therefore sales that should have rolled over but have been forgotten about. So you could do something as simple as set up a Zapier link. So Zapier raises a Zap, the Zap sends you an email, the email then tells you that there's an invoice that's ready to be reviewed in your drafts in your Xero system. So that's one way of controlling that particular issue. So have a think about all of the places where you have a customer sale, where your order comes in, where your pipeline of orders is sitting in your system, and each of the steps where a gap might be in that system, where a process link might break, where the invoice might not be raised, where the credit card might not renew, where there might be a gap between one system and another, and where there's a potential leak in your business. Now, even if there isn't an actual leak that you found today when you do this audit, could it happen in the future, and what controls do you have in place to make sure that that doesn't happen? So that's all from us today. If you've enjoyed this video, please let us know. If you think of anybody else who might enjoy our October 2019 Profit Challenge, please invite them to the group or share this with them. That would be great. And we'll see you back here tomorrow for another one of our Profit Challenges. See you soon. Bye.
Bye.